This is John with Proluxe. Today we're gonna troubleshoot and fix stiff arms, and this video is gonna be on replacing arms as well, and the step procedures to do this properly. First things first, you got 4 bolts. You're gonna find one here, 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 and here. They're gonna be 7/16. If you don't have 7/16, 11mm does fit them. So let's go ahead and set these aside. We're gonna go ahead and remove the lid, the housing here. You're gonna find clasps on the back here. You pull these clasps towards you and they come off. Yeah, it's pretty nasty. Anyway, go ahead and get these removed. Make sure your machine is unplugged from the power supply, because you don't want to short the controller or electrocute yourself. Pull this all out. What you're going to want to note is, in reassembling this is RTD2. This white one here is RTD2. The blue one is RTD1. No matter what the color is, make sure it's coming from the top of this housing here. This is going to be your upper platen. Always goes to RTD1. Go ahead and remove these. If you're afraid that you might break or rip them, use a pair of needle nose, or go ahead and get a small flathead and just pry them up. And they should come up if you wiggle them back and forth without damaging. And remember, upper platen always goes to RTD1, lower platen is always RTD2. So, and they'll be marked right here. They'll tell you right here where my finger is, RTD2, and this one is RTD1. So, just right in there. This is always going to be your color sequence for putting this connector back. Is always going to be brown's number 1, green's number 2, brown's number 3, green is number 4. If you look here on the block, on the back of the block, it is numbered 1 through 15. So, you want to keep that in mind. All right, let's go ahead and get this housing out of the way. Cool. Okay, so here we're going to want to go ahead and disconnect the power distribution cable, which runs down into the post. You don't want to worry about disconnecting any of this stuff over here. We're just going to focus on here. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead, and there's no real wrong or right way to do this. You can either start here, you can start here. I do advise, it's most likely you're not going to have the owner's manual to this machine. I do tell people, I encourage it, take a picture of how this is wired, so you can make sure all your terminals go back in the proper position. You can always use that as a reference. So let's go ahead and get this thing disassembled here. Now we got our ground strap disconnected. And the next one I want to go to is I want to go to my lower platen heater. Let's go ahead and grab your Phillips. That's it. I usually leave this guy on here. It doesn't fall off. It's usually pretty secure. Go ahead. Now I got this disconnected. Now I'm going to work on these guys in here. Doesn't matter the order, like I said. Just go ahead and disconnect them. But before disconnecting, I do, like I said, take a picture. Everybody's got smartphones. It's going to make your job a lot easier. You won't second guess yourself on the reassembly of that. And that's that. All these are taken off. And I really didn't have to take that one off, but I did. when you go and screw those little screws on, you don't have to crank them down tight. You want them nice and snug, secure. You crank them, you can either risk breaking the block, which I've seen happen. You want to try to stay away from that. Go ahead and undo your strap here. Undo this. Now your power distribution cable, as you can see, is completely taken off. So we're just going to have to swing that up out of the way here for a minute. Okay, next thing you're going to want to do is on here, I have a, you're going to need the 3/16 socket. You're going to want to get the 5/16 socket, and you're going to get the 1/8 socket. There we go there. This guy here, first things first, is you're going to come in here. These have already been pre-loosened, but you're going to want to loosen this guy up. If you don't loosen this, this will not come out. So you definitely want to make sure you loosen this. When you do a reassemble, you're going to want to just get this guy down, get it snug, get it tight to where this doesn't move. What it does is it jams the threads here, allowing this piece not to turn. Because if it does turn, it can cause the arm to raise up or lower down, or eventually get tight and cause the arm to seize on itself as well. So long extensions seem to work the best. You know. So as you can see, I'm cranking this, the arm is lifting, so I just keep going. Arm is slightly seized, so this is going to be the 3/16. Is going to be able to undo this guy here. And then you're going to want to undo these guys here. These have been pre-loosened already and pre-loosened. So let's go ahead and keep going up on this here. So as you keep going, my bad, I forgot to bring up, you're going to want to open the arm if you can possibly get it open, or if you can't get the arm open, you're going to want to have to clear this section. What will end up happening is the platen will come up and clip the back of the collar. There's a bolt over on this side. It's a 1/2 inch and an Allen. You can usually remove this. It will give you enough clearance to swing the machine this way, or you can clear that with the head. But if the arm is slightly seized like this one here is, what you can do is you can swing it open, and down here you can see it. Now your platen will clear, so you can go ahead and keep cranking this guy all the way up. Going until this guy stops, and you'll know when it stops because it actually pop on you. So just make sure none of your wires are getting bound up anywhere, and that's it. So go ahead. So after removing those, you can see that this arm's gotten kind of, the grease is just kind of turned to almost like a silicone or putty, and that's why we do recommend changing grease to the graphite. It doesn't give this effect, and that effect's caused by contamination of the lack of cleaning the machine. They get a lot of oils up here. Oil gets underneath the machine. It gets shot up from the air piston. All this here is actually cooking grease in oil. What it does is it actually gets, every time the machine goes up and down, it squishes the oil and grease to the top, and that's what usually all this food particles, stuff like that gets blown up in here, causes this to start eating the aluminum. The graphite allows that to not happen. So let me grab a rag.
Cool.
All right, so what you're gonna want to do is, if the arm is not that badly seized up, like this one luckily got to us, not being completely 100%, which is good. I'm gonna have to lift this guy up. You're gonna want to kind of rock it back and forth, slowly bring it up until she comes off. There we go. The arm's off. All right, next thing you want to do is, simple green seems to work the best, breaking down oils, contaminants, stuff like that. So obviously, give her a good spritz in a simple green. Obviously, you don't have to go too crazy with it, but you're gonna want to have to get in here and wipe all this. You can see it, the grease just kind of turns when it gets completely contaminated from the oil seeping underneath the machine, and it's very critical. People, wipe down their platens to keep the oil from coming down off the platen and getting into the machine, and then the air ends up shooting the oil, and they can cross-contaminate each other. So after you kind of give it a good, at least a decent little wipe down here, get as much of this off as possible. All right. All right, so once you get a majority of this goop off of here, you're gonna want to kind of spray in here. Get the Scotch Brite. Remember, you don't have to be stingy with the Scotch or the Scotch Brite or the simple green. You want to go ahead and get this thing well. You want to get all the contaminants off this guy. All this old grease definitely got to come off, because it can cause an issue if there's material in here. Definitely want to get all that out of there. It ends up eating the post up. We all know it. Steel and hard sandpaper and aluminum don't like to play well together. So you want to definitely get in here as well and get all this gunk out of here. Okay, what I usually like to start out with is 150 sandpaper. See the little bit of galling and scratching here? I want to see this here is a little bit of aluminum, so we want to get rid of that. So, simple grain. You don't have to use a lubricant. You can just go ahead and simple grain it. And what you want to do is you want to get this guy nice and cleaned up. A lot of this stuff here, go ahead and you just want to concentrate on the area it's damaged. If this is not scratched up here, don't worry about it. You just want to concentrate in the area it's got the slight damage to it. The idea is to get this as smooth and unabrasive as possible, so you don't have problems later in the future and later on down the road. All we're doing here is cleaning this guy up. If you have a an air sander or a drill, a high-speed drill with a Scotch-Brite cloth on it, works really well. And I'll actually show you that. Makes your life a lot easier. And, but right now, we're just going to show you if you have nothing like that readily available to you. So once you get it cleaned up, kind of give it a look, you can see it, there's still a little bit of debris. If you rub your fingernail, obviously I'm wearing gloves, but if I rub my fingernail against here and I feel ripples, I want to make sure that I don't feel any rippling on there. So I'll keep working on that. And I'll show you, obviously, doing it this way. And we'll work on a little spot here. This is a 320 sandpaper. So once I get the majority of the rough stuff off of this guy, we're going to want to go ahead and use this. Like I said, this is to an alternative if you don't have a Scotch-Brite wheel or a high-speed drill or air. If the shop's usually got air, you're working at, you can just tie into their air and use your air tools. But you have to obviously cover where you're going to be because you don't want to get contaminants all over their tables and food. So if you can see, just in this area I worked at here, you can still see the scratches, but I can barely feel them. It takes a little bit longer doing it sandpaper wise, but I'm going to show you with the air Dremel and what I use. So hold on. Okay, if you have air, or obviously I'm going to use air here. If you see there, this guy here is for taking burrs. It gives it a nice finish. It's not abrasive. It's almost like a polishing wheel. If you have either air or high-speed drill gun, this is what I recommend using. Makes your life a lot easier. What you'll do, and you won't press on it with a... And somebody changed my air hoses. Nice. How's it go? Alright, so anyway, see the little burr of aluminum right there? What I'm going to do is I'm going to run this guy up and down and get it polished. But all this has got to come off too. We'll get to that in a minute. But you don't want to run it really super high speed, but you don't want to plow into it. You just kind of want to float. See, now that gets rid of all the burrs, and then I come back with the 300 grit and give it a nice little polish. But you mainly want to get rid of all the deep burrs on this guy. So we'll come around the back here. So on the sandpaper, after you do get all the fine dimples, any kind of aluminum debris, definitely want to clean the aluminum debris off, because what that's going to cause is it's going to cause it to friction lock and friction weld itself back together. So once you do that, just get some of your whatever cleaner you're using. Like I said, Simple Green seems to work the best for breaking down the oil and grease. And I just go like this, and what I do is I'll go left to right. I won't go up or down, because I want to keep whatever little lines that I put in this, I want to keep it the same orientation of how the arm swings left to right. That way it doesn't cause any kind of interference with that. Off again, and you can tell the arm's all nice and nice and pretty again. So these arms will take a lot of abuse before they're actually completely destroyed. I haven't come across one yet that I couldn't save or repair by just doing this, but now it's got a nice smooth finish to it. Now I can go ahead and finish cleaning all this debris here. Usually a razor blade scrape the majority of this off around the collar here. Checkmate for any pits or divots here, any sharp edges, and then go ahead and clean out around this ring here, get rid of all the old grease. So we'll go ahead and pause the video and then I'll get back to it. Alright, so you just go any razor blade. I mean, you can get a putty knife if you want. Usually I just go up. I'll follow the curvature of the post, because obviously going down it's a little bit more of a pain in the butt. But you can see how this grease is just kind of almost turned to rubber, cross contamination with other greases. So you just go ahead and scrape as much as you can of this off. Get that. Whoops. And you go ahead and want to get your Scotch-Brite. Fold it to a cleaner spot, obviously. Or if you got a station, you can wash your Scotch-Brite out in a sink or something. Everybody's doing that. I went ahead and go ahead and get all this old grease off of here. So once you get that, see, now it's all nice and clean. Obviously this old debris, all this has got to go though, so definitely don't want that in there at all. Go ahead and clean all this off. And if you're doing a machine, it hasn't froze yet, and you guys are just doing a repair, or the customer complains it feels a little stiff like this machine was getting, most likely there shouldn't be any damage on the post itself. You're just going to want to head and thoroughly get all the old grease off the post, and then go ahead and apply graphite grease to it. And obviously when I get all this cleaned out, we'll cut back to putting the graphite grease on it. Alright, this is the grease you're going to want to use. If you can, usually Craig & O'Reilly's, AutoZone, it's a graphite grease. It's for engine insulation. So you see right here. Anyway, you can find this at almost any auto parts store. I think Home Depot and Lowe's even carries this stuff nowadays. But anyway, here, you're going to want to go ahead and put a little dabadooya all the way around. Down here, so when the arm sits down on the O-ring, seals it. On the post, you're going to want to go ahead and just be generous with it. You can never have enough grease on anything, but I usually just go ahead and coat it on there. Okay, there, go ahead and get the cap back on here. And obviously critical to go ahead and just get this guy all nice and good. From top to bottom, you want graphite grease on this guy. It's infused with metals, so it allows the two, aluminum and steel, to coincide with each other without having issues. And mainly on the graphite on this end, down here in this tube, you just want to get it on the O-ring. Doesn't really matter too much on the aluminum side, just on the O-ring so it seals to keep contaminants from getting in there. Down there. And then we'll take you over to the arm, and I'll show you cleaning and deburring the arm. Cool. Alright, right here is what we call honing stones. You can buy them at any auto parts, O'Reilly's, AutoZone. If you got a Harbor Freight disc carry 'em, just a basic wireless cordless drill. The RPMs on this doesn't have to be that fast, and you can see here, so the grease is kind of got cross-contaminant, and that's what ends up happening with these guys. Is they definitely want to keep their machines as clean as possible, because like I said, the grease fills up in the bottom of the machine and then ends up getting sprayed in here. Like I said, I just use Simple Green. You can use WD-40, but Simple Green is just so much easier to clean up. Then what we're going to do here is just go ahead and wipe it out with a rag as best as possible. I did forget to say, it's usually a good idea to plug this front opening here so you don't get the Simple Green in here. It really doesn't matter, it doesn't hurt anything. Just more stuff to clean out after the fact. Luckily I have air, so I'll just go ahead and clean it and blow it out after the fact. But you see there's still tons of debris and stuff on here. Go ahead and stop the video. Okay, so if the grease ends up becoming too much and really a pain in the butt, you can either go in there with your hand and Scotch-Brite it out, or you can stuff the Scotch-Brite in here, stuff the honing stones down behind the Scotch-Brite, get your Simple Green, and be very generous with it on here and get the Scotch-Brite nice and saturated. And what the Scotch-Brite does is it allows you to clean all the stuff off of the walls and polish the aluminum back out. Okay. We'll go ahead and wipe this out. As you can see, this is still a little bit of the old grease stuck up in here. So usually what I'll come do is I'll come in here and get a razor blade, get this guy cleaned up. But a lot of this is the cooking grease actually gets in there and gets all kinds of funky. So trying to get that cleaned up best you can. Sometimes you can come in here with just Scotch-Brite itself and just kind of ring around in here. Sometimes it comes off, other times it's a total pain in the butt. See these burrs here? So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get all this edging, we want to get it smooth. So the marks can stay there, it's not going to affect the machine. The machine will operate and work just fine. We just want to get all these burrs out of here and get it nice and smooth again. If the lines are in there, that's fine. We just don't want any like burrs where you can feel burr in the back of the machine. Okay, we're just gonna go with the standard razor blade again. I'm gonna just lay it against the back here and just follow the curvature of the bore. Just scrape this out here a little bit. And what this is allowing me to do is the honing stones won't sit there and just spin over this grease here. So get that cleaned up as best we can. Come back with the Scotch-Brite, knock the wall down. Then I'll show you putting the Scotch-Brite in there. You just want it's a regular old Scotch-Brite pad. I think it's an 8-inch pad. Seems working out really well. Easily bring it to about there. Got my stones. Collapse the stones. About halfway or so. Walk the honing stones down in there. And then go ahead and you don't have to go up and down really quick. Small motions. We'll go ahead and check this. It's good, feels good. This right here just needs a little bit more just to tone itself, and we should be getting close to getting it back together. See, now it's all rough. And we're going one more last time. Go ahead and wrap our Scotch-Brite. Drop our Scotch-Brite in here like so. What the Scotch-Brite's going to do is it's going to get rid of that rough texture I gave it with the honing stones. I'm going to give it more of a smooth polish. So go ahead and get these down in there. Get this sprayed up. The smoother the cylinder is, the better the grease and everything works back together really nicely, and it should open and close with no friction whatsoever on the machine. I'm gonna wipe down real quick, we'll give it a check. And that's nice and smooth now. These, I could just fill the indentation of lines, but there's no sharp edges. Everything's nice, got a nice transfer to it. It's not all burred. So that should be good. Going ahead, cut the video. I'm gonna go ahead. All right, graphite grease. If you got gloves, better for you. If you don't, messy, but gotta get in here and coat this wall. Coat the inner wall. Make sure you get a good helping on there. This in here. Grease on there. Glove. We'll go ahead and slide it back down on here. I'm gonna wrap this. All right, go ahead. All right, so if you don't have anybody to help you with this is going to save your butt and a lot of extra cleanup that you're not going to want to do. Just get a rag. Usually, you'll be working in the stores. You have tons of gloves. Go ahead and do that. If you have gloves, cool. If you don't, the store has tons for their employees to put on. This kind of helps you. I'm having to clean all the graphite off the cables. Go ahead and stuff these in here like so. Especially if you're working by yourself. The majority of you guys do. So anyway, little cables in there. Okay. Should just repeat is putting this in here like so. Slide the arm down like this, and you'll just go ahead and let it slide, and that's it. And this is how your machine should operate after you're done with it. You shouldn't have any friction on it. You should be able to do this with it. Well, it's gonna hit the platen, but if I come over here, you should be able to easily do that. The arm should drop right back down on there, not a problem. Swing back and forth, and that's it. And then